Tornadoes. They've been around for as early as 1050 AD, or they've been around earlier than even that time. Anyways, these photogenic events can be peaceful, or quite the contrary. I will be describing 4 main points in this video. The first point is how these tornadoes formed. The second point, where these tornadoes formed. The third point, the amount of destruction and chaos these tornadoes caused. The fourth point, the impact these tornadoes had on certain communities. Tornadoes come from supercells, which are essentially a much more violent version of thunderstorms. The way they form is the large amounts of warm, moist air coming in from the Gulf of Mexico and cool, dry air coming in from the Rocky Mountains, mixing together over a place called Tornado Alley, a region that is flat and it spreads through Texas, Oklahoma, South Dakota, North Dakota, Kansas, Illinois, Nebraska, Colorado, Missouri, Minnesota, and Iowa. They also form over a region called Dixie Alley, a region in the southeastern United States that is densely covered with trees, making it more deadly for tornadoes to form there. The states that make up Dixie Alley are Texas, the eastern parts, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Missouri, the southeastern part. Tornadoes are rated using the enhanced Fujita scale based upon the damage they have created and the wind speeds from within the tornado itself. The scale has 6 categories that ranges from EF0 to EF5. Essentially, EF0 is the lowest on the enhanced Fujita scale. It creates minor damage, nothing major. EF1 creates moderate damage, enough for you to pay more taxes. EF2 creates considerable damage where you will have to either get your way out of a tree-lined area if that's where you live, or if you have to help neighbors. EF3, you don't want to mess with that. EF4, it's devastating. I wouldn't mess with that either. EF5, everything's just flattened. There's no more houses, cars, trees, or fields of green. It's just utter devastation. The winds are really high on this one, so I wouldn't recommend standing outside and trying to take a video of it, because you will likely die and get thrown around. Yeah, it's that bad. There have been many tornadoes that have reached EF5 status. Gerald, Texas in 1997, Greensburg, Kansas in 2007, Chandler, Minnesota in 1992, Smithville, Mississippi in 2011, and Moore, Oklahoma in 2013, and the list goes on and on and on. 59 tornadoes have reached EF5 status, and one of them was the deadliest tornado in the history of the United States, when in 1925 one tornado carved a path straight through Missouri, Indiana, and Illinois. The highest wind speeds ever recorded from inside a tornado in the entire world was 301 miles per hour on May 3rd, 1999, when an F5 tornado ripped through Moore, Oklahoma. On May 31st, 2013, the widest tornado formed in El Reno, Oklahoma, growing to a record-breaking 2.6 miles wide. During the 1974 super outbreak, 315 people died due to the National Weather Service only having limited radar technology at the time, and an additional 5,000 people were injured. And also, it caused $4.5 billion in property damage. The 2011 super outbreak, however, killed more people, though it isn't that big. It only killed 324 people, and 3,100 people were injured. The outbreak caused $12.2 billion in damage, which is roughly double or triple the amount of the 1974 super outbreak. However, the tri-state tornado outranks both of them in deaths. because this single tornado killed 695 people and it injured 2,000. It also caused $1.4 billion in damage across Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. Even though it wasn't the costliest tornado, it is definitely the deadliest. In El Reno of 2013, 8 people were killed. And all of them were in vehicles, and 3 of them were Tim Samaras, Carl Jung, and Paul Samaras, who contributed heavily to the research of tornadoes. What the NOAA has discovered is that the average global temperature has increased by 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit over the past century. That is also because of the emission of greenhouse gases, which is being emitted into the atmosphere from factories and large industrial areas, looking at you, China, which has in turn led to the melting of ice sheets, glaciers, and oceans, and the ocean's surface getting warmer. Now that there is extra moisture from the warming temperatures, which is causing heavier rainfalls and affecting weather patterns, which could lead to the increase of tornadoes, hurricanes, tsunamis, flash floods, and landslides, and even more than that. So, what we have learned from over time, what we have learned is, number one, you don't want to go around opening up your windows during a tornado. You have to get to your basement instead. That's not what you should be doing. We also learned that overpasses are not a safe shelter from tornadoes, as it creates a wind tunnel, potential for you getting sucked into the tornado and you're dead. The last thing we learned is that there's a pressure drop inside of the tornado, when on June 23rd, 2003, Tim Samaras, yes, that same guy that died in 2013, recorded the largest pressure drop by 100 millibars when an EF4 tornado in Manchester, South Dakota, passed over one of the weather instruments. The point is, we have learned how to create warnings, and we've learned how to study them and study these tornadoes. But until then, we'll just keep going on in hopes for the betterment of people living in the Midwest, and someday, the entire world.